Earlier this week, I posted a question on my Instagram story asking when you think that the Black Series peaked. And I think what was so interesting about this is that I got a ton of different answers kind of covering almost every single era of the Black Series. They were all special to different people for different reasons. So let's take a look at those answers. This footage that's going to be playing in the background is from Pasadena Comic-Con, which was this past weekend. I was really impressed with the amount of stuff here that there was to look at and to buy. A lot of the conventions I go to now are very corporatized. There's a lot of really large booths from a lot of large brands, but this was more just like local shops selling figures at pretty reasonable prices. I got a couple things. So let's look at the answers now. So the first one said, before the carbonized figs and lame repaints. We definitely had repaints in the line from the very beginning, starting I think with the prototype Boba Fett, but I understand that it feels like there's a lot of repaints coming out these days. I think that's pretty typical of a lot of toy lines, but I agree that it's not fun. I think maybe if they just sort of dripped out these repaints without having to constantly make a big show of it every time there's an event, then it wouldn't feel as much like they're just kind of like rubbing it in our face and giving it to us as if we don't know that we're getting repaints. Liam says when you can walk into a shop and buy them instead of having no shops have any. I don't know, I feel like a lot of the times the Black Series was peg warming just because it really wasn't good, like early in the line. I wasn't actually collecting them, so I can't really say too certain what that was like. But for the most part, I feel like that first wave just really sat on shelves for a while, and I don't know that that was actually a good thing for the Black Series. Camino and Customs says the OG Redbox Captain Rex and Clone Commander Obi-Wan release. I know a lot of people actually don't love that Obi-Wan. He has those weird studs holding his cape on the front, but I do think it is one of the best head sculpts that we have ever had in the Black Series, and it has a nice matte finish. Someone said when I started customizing, that's really sweet. Star Wars LP, friend of mine, says after the Force Awakens release, I agree that that was around when the face printing started, and there were a ton of sequel trilogy figures, which I know a lot of people weren't excited about, but I think at the time, especially before the movie came out, and even before The Last Jedi, I think a lot of people were actually really stoked on the sequel trilogy. From a lot of fans that I've talked to, they say that energy around the Force Awakens coming out was just really unmatched in the last decade for Star Wars. So while I don't think that the figures were at their best at that point, I think that collecting was probably really fun around that time, and they were just pumping out so much new stuff from the new movie. Frederick's Figures says Galaxy Packaging debut. That's when I got really excited about collecting. That's really when I started becoming a completionist. I thought the Galaxy packaging was so nice. I really don't like the color red and didn't like the red boxes. By the way, the footage you're seeing now is from the Frank and Son Collectors Show in California. Next we have someone saying 2023, and the Out of the Basement boys are saying 2020 to current. I definitely agree, I think, with the 2020 to current. I think that's right around when the figures got really impressive. By the way, please like this video and subscribe if you have not already. If you are watching so far, I think you will like a lot of the rest of my content. Let's go to the next slide. Fellow YouTuber Skywalker Hendrix says we're living it. I definitely feel that sentiment. I feel like critiques of the Black Series are summed up well by DB Customs here. In my opinion, the Black Series was hoppin' when they offered dioramas and vehicles. We are definitely getting way fewer vehicles and dioramas than we did. I don't think we're ever going to really get any vehicles the size of the Snowspeeder ever again. In his interview with Luke Ness Monster on his YouTube channel, Eric from the Black Series team mentioned that they looked at doing a Blurg or a speeder bike, but just never found a good time to release that. I hope they do that eventually, though. It'd be cool to see some more of those larger items in the Black Series outside of HasLabs. Two people said it has yet to come. Vader X Brick said 2020 to now. Visual Force says Rex when they started Galaxy packaging again. From the Outer Rim says 2019 new face tech. COVID hadn't messed with the production time. $20 figures and lots of them. The last couple years is when I really started collecting, and so I was catching up on a lot of figures, so I luckily did not have to really wait too long for a lot of these to come out. I think I started really getting into it around when the Attack of the Clones line came out with Count Dooku. Token Toy Hunter said never had a peak, just steady ups and downs. I totally understand that as well. There have been benefits and flaws to every different era of the Black Series. It's so hard to really tell when an era is happening until it's over. Jace Windu says I would say now that are some of the best figures with face print and mostly pinless. Accessories lacking though, I totally feel that. Nose Rain says 2017 to 2018. Got 2019 with Jedi Fallen Order, Mando, Solo, and Bounty Hunters coming to the archive line. I really do think that Solo line is one of the best single project waves or single entertainment waves that they've ever done. A few more people saying the beginning of the Galaxy line, the last couple red boxes, and the first Galaxy wave. Attack of the Clones, Dooku, Commander Bly were around the same point. That was a really good good time as well, and that Attack of the Clones wave was really awesome. And Logan Callahan says, I'd like to think that it hasn't happened yet. I definitely agree with him. I think that in a couple years we will look back and realize that we were just getting started. The footage you're seeing now is from a shop called Toys in the Box, Toys with a Z, that is also in California in the LA area. The wave with Attack of the Clones Padme was really good. Yeah, that was a really amazing wave, and it was cool to get so many figures from a single movie in a single wave. Some more people saying 2022 to present. Rio Durant from Solo, that figure is so underrated and so awesome. End of the Redbox line, I'm not sure I agree with that too much, but around that time I think was actually moving into the Galaxy line I think was really good. Every era has different pros and cons, so it's really hard to say, and I think that's why we're getting such a variety of answers here. Someone says Constable Zubio's when it went off the rails. Moving on to the next slide. Honestly, I like it now, just availability sucks. I kind of understand that, although I do think that it is quite easy to get figures, just not when they first release. But I can't really think of any figure in the last couple years that's been really hard to get for very long. Like Hunter and Crosshair and figures that are really valuable now, they were pretty affordable and available for over a year, I think. Someone else saying the Solo wave up till now. The Solo wave was definitely an amazing leap for the Black Series. Someone else saying they're still waiting for it. And someone else says, I'm not sure, but I hope we are at the peak of pricing. I totally feel that. The prices have gotten quite high, considering that this line premiered over 10 years ago and the price has only gone up 20%. That's pretty good, or I guess 25% since it went from 20 to 25. That's not that crazy of an increase considering how amazing the quality has gotten most of these. I do wish that we saw more accessories and that sort of thing in newer figures, but I don't really know of any other toy company that's providing better figures at the price point. Also, we know that the Star Wars license is very expensive, which is why we see a lot more accessories packed into Hasbro's own properties such as G.I. Joe. Now we're going to have some background footage from my most recent collection tour. If you would like to see me talk about all of the figures that you're seeing here, that video is on my channel, so it's the exact same footage, just with me actually explaining what you're looking at here. Someone says, around when the sequels came out, the packaging and quality was fire. I understand the excitement around that time. I still don't think the packaging was great. Like I said before, I don't like the red box. We've got 3 people in this slide saying that now is the golden age of the Black Series, high prices aside. We've got a couple people in this next slide saying 2020 and onward. Someone is saying now / the Solo movie, which I think is interesting because that was about 5 years ago, but I really do think that the Solo wave was a peak for the Black Series that wasn't necessarily maintained for a very long time afterwards. I don't know if they got extra budget for this wave or what was going on, but all of these figures are such amazing likenesses to the actors, some of the best that they have ever done, and the most consistent wave I think we've ever had in the Black Series. Someone says around the release of the Bad Batch figures, which is when they started collecting. I think we all have a little bit of a sweet spot for the era when we started collecting, but I do think that that Galaxy packaging was an amazing step up for the Black Series. A lot of different interpretations of the question, but I do like this person saying never a better time than now to start collecting. Hasbro has done a really good job of re-releasing figures that were really difficult to get for a while, and so there's not that many figures that will cost you more than like $60 these days. And most of them you can find under 30 or even below retail price. We have someone else saying the Attack of the Clones wave, someone else saying 2020, but I feel like it's been pretty solid since then, so that's another 2020 and onward. Someone's saying there have been a lot of peaks, but the low was 2015 to 2018. That was the Force Awakens before face printing era, and I definitely agree that some of those figures are just absolutely terrible, like the Force Awakens Rey has not aged well at all. A surprising number of people were saying the Orange and Blue Line series. I don't think that the figures were great, but I feel like that was a very exciting time for the Black Series. Again, I'm just kind of repeating myself here, but we got a lot of repeat answers, but I think it's interesting to go into all of them. Someone here is saying the Carbonized collection, but I have a feeling that they are joking. In our next group, we have someone else saying the Black Series peaked with Solo's wave. They delivered with every single figure. They've released great figures and even better after that, but not an entire flawless wave. I totally agree with that. I think we have these new properties sometimes and we will get really incredible figures and then a couple from the same project or the same entertainment that are just total flops. And I don't know if it's using different factories, different designers, different budgets, but it's kind of weird to see, and I don't know what was going on when that Solo wave came out. Someone here is saying that after the face printing but before pinless technology, I guess they like a little bit more articulation in the figures. I personally prefer the pinless look, but I understand that some people want more posability. Someone's saying the 40th anniversary Kenner card backs. I understand the appeal of those. They just don't actually apply to me. I never collected carded figures other than I guess the Phantom Menace wave when I was like 10. I think they're really beautiful though, and I actually wish that I had that emotional connection because I don't really have any reason to collect them, but they seem cool. We have a couple of people in this group saying just before the sequel trilogy. I disagree because I think photoreal really totally transformed the figures. I don't think I have a single figure on display that doesn't have either a photoreal or a custom head. Someone makes a good point here that right after The Last Jedi with photoreal, but figures were still cheap and had no sweaty faces. The figures now that we get often have a very clear, shiny finish that comes from the factory, and you have to matte spray them, which I do with almost every new figure I get. In this final group, we have some people saying now, some people saying 2013, 2015. Someone says for someone who started during the pandemic, it was last summer, and yet again, someone saying the Solo line. I don't know what they did with the Solo line, but I would love to see them do it again. We are, of course, just starting this conversation, so I want you in the comments below to let me know your favorite era for the Black Series, and let me know why you think that that was the peak, since we have a little bit more space to share our thoughts in the comments below. Thank you guys all for watching. Please like this video and subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you in the comments below. Until next time.